Okay. Does that go
Check
along
out
with
the
the fact
new
you're
light.
getting daylight now?
New light. I'm a daywalker now. Good morning, mediums. Welcome to another episode of Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Ralph Kern and Scott Moon. It's season 3, episode 20. We are here with Joshua James. He is publishing his Lucky Marines series this year. He's just started this year, 2018, with his Lucky Universe novel. He's published 3 so far. The last one published April 17th, Lucky Empire. And then he's got 2 more already waiting in the Amazon publishing wings. So it'll be really exciting to talk to Josh today. He's pulling a Nick Cole today, if you can see that he's in his car.
That's the official move. It's the Nick Cole. I'm in the car.
Pulling Nick Cole. Well, and it's a modified Nick Cole, because the official Nick Cole, you have to be at nighttime and like hunkered down, looking around for people. So it's a modified Nick Cole, and So welcome.
Really shady. Yeah, I'm not actually lurking around a neighborhood or anything while I'm doing
Well, doesn't Nick Cole actually drive as well?
No, he does, but that's when Nicole's holding his phone.
When Nicole's holding Nick Cole's phone. Okay, work that out. Right.
So, Josh, welcome to the show, buddy. It's a good time to have you on, and we're excited to talk about your series. I'm really jealous that you've got all these super nice Tom Edwards covers, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
I love Tom Edwards covers.
I'm all about Tom Edwards covers.
If you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into writing, and talk about this massive publishing scale you got going on.
So, I don't know how in the world. Like, I feel like the story is the same as everybody else's. I've wanted to write since I was a kid. Tried to publish some short stories when I was just graduated from college. Realized it was never going to make any money doing that. Ended up bouncing around a little bit between different jobs, and I've been an accountant for several years now. And so that's right. I write military science fiction. I'm an accountant, so I feel like it's my way to get my stress relief out. You know, like I can't take it out on my clients or my coworkers, so I take it out on the bastard aliens that we're killing. So anyway,
I get the feeling this is going to be a PG-13 episode at least.
Is it like your accountant thing? Is that like a secret identity, like on Mission Impossible, where he's like, I work for the Department of Transportation, and
I wish
he actually is an assassin.
No.
Are you an assassin?
Are you an assassin? We're gonna out you right here.
Yeah, you figured it out. Yeah, that's it. Assassin drives around his car doing that podcast. That's me.
Good cover.
So if you have to break and snipe someone, we know you're actually
right. You all know what's going on. Yeah, that's just part of my monthly financials. You know, sometimes you got to knock people off that are causing trouble for the company.
Right.
It happens. It happens.
You know,
Zero balance for you.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, that's my day job. I mean, literally, I'm on my lunch break, but that's my day job. And so I wanted to write, and so I don't know. I think I watched. I think like everybody. I don't know. I talked to a couple of people about it, but I think it was Chris Fox who really was the guy that I watched. Which it seems so quaint now, but I watched when he did his videos where he wrote a book in I can't remember how many days or whatever, but it seems like it was such a mind-blowing short period of time when he did it at the time. And now it's like, what else do you do but write a book in a month?
Easy.
How else do you do this business? But like that at the time, I just remember watching it being blown away. I think it was 21 days or something. He did a video series. And so I slowly got into, I started thinking, oh, you know what? I don't have to actually do all the bullshit, like going through, jumping all the hoops to get a publisher and, you know, to go that route. I can actually do it myself. So then I forgot about it for a couple of years, like the real go-getter that I am. And then finally I decided, let me actually do something. So I slowly got started on it. And late last year, I finished the first book. And when I finished it, I sort of looked around and realized this is ridiculous. I can't take this long. I've got to find a system or process. And so I just slowly from then started trying to improve to where I can write faster, do it better, do my marketing better, do my advertising better, do all that stuff better, and just get tighter at it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Ralph says if you had a mustache and you shaved it like Ralph just did, because I'm drawing attention to that because I know he wants me to, then you would do much faster.
I'm going to do the rest of the interview like this.
Just speeding through.
No, that's awesome. I definitely want to talk to you a lot about your writing process and some of the things you've done, like where you were to how you your iteration or whatever of improvements. But can you tell me a little bit about?
Want to cover the...
Yeah, can we talk about the Luckies Universe a little bit? Tell us about those book stories, the universe you're writing.
So I'm a science fiction nerd. Love science fiction stuff, and I really got into it because again, Chris Fox. This is so corny, but like he was writing initially in military science fiction. I know he's moved on. He's doing some other stuff. But he first dropped some books. What he did is he brought my attention, I guess, basically to military science fiction books, because I had read a lot of science fiction, but I hadn't read a lot of military sci-fi. So I just sort of, once he showed me Nick Webb, I was gone. Like as soon as I pulled Nick Webb's books up, and then I started reading those, and then I moved over to M.R. Forbes and Jay Allen. I mean, it was over after that, man. I was reading those guys like crazy. And so then it just seemed like a no-brainer if I was going to write it. And at that point I was like, great, it's saturated. Everybody's going to be doing it. I'm just doing the same thing everybody else is. But I was like, well, screw it. I really like this stuff now. So I'm just going to go for it. So that was kind of why I wrote in that genre. It was honestly because I was like, this is really cool right now. I was really into it.
It's interesting because a lot of people, I think, worry about market saturation, but so far it just hasn't seemed to happen. I mean, it seems like there's enough readers for everybody, but
I guess so. I mean, honestly, like if we had been talking 6 months ago, I would have been like, I'm stupid. I know I'm stupid. It's totally saturated, but it's just like,
apparently not.
It's like my first series. So I was like, let me go in on something I'm excited about. Cause I tried to do some fantasy. I wanted to write some fantasy books, and I was like, I couldn't get into it. And I kept coming back to this idea of this just screwed up, run down, beat up Marine who is like just left behind enemy lines and totally screwed. And it turns out that nobody else can save the universe except for this guy and a bunch of, rookies around him who are so stupid they actually respect his authority. I was like, I just kept coming back to the story, and I was like, I got to write this. I can't not write it anymore.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about the universe itself that Lucky exists in? I'm very much enjoying it, and I think it's quite a distinctive kind of universe. And
well, it's kind of I kind of describe it as like Aliens meets Jason Bourne, which is probably somewhat accurate. There's some Starship Troopers in there too, but basically I was kind of looking for this idea of the Colonial Marines characters from Aliens. I sort of was like in the head of a couple of them, really enjoying that using them as like the groundwork. And then I just sort of started adding on stuff. I decided, well, there's some advanced AI in here, so I started tinkering with that and decided, this guy's got a full-blooded AI inside his head. It's like a complete person in there who has a personality and is a real smart ass and everything. And then once I started playing with that character in his head, I started realizing this guy's like a Jason Bourne type character. He's got some incredible skills, but he's toasted. Like something's wrong with him. And so I started like backing into that idea of him having like sort of this evil demon deep inside of him that he just releases every once in a while. And he tries not to, but he can't keep the demon in the bottle. So I just sort of played with those ideas and then started growing it more and more. And it just kind of developed into this cool. And then I started like putting fun characters around him. Once I got the team together, sort of the 3 or 4 main members of the squad with him, it started to really come together. I thought it was kind of fun then. I was really enjoying the interplay between them. And they're just a bunch of smart asses like me.
Right.
Yeah, this poor Lucky. I mean, he's not just got one internal character, has he? They've got this demon and an AI, like sort of.
He's got all kinds of. He's got a lot of issues. Yeah, he's a fun. I mean, that's what makes him fun to write. Is he's just got a ton of issues, and sometimes he just can't take it anymore, and he just needs to get violent. And so it's kind of fun to write, because he just is constantly fighting those demons. He wins, he loses, but either way, he can't keep his cool, man. He just gets fired up. It's fun to write.
But that does make him kind of cool in a sort of the way that he does. I love the way he's basically a grumpy, cantankerous old bastard, isn't he? It's probably the best way of
absolutely
describing him, and it sort of makes him charming in his own way. But
yeah, and he's trying to break good. He's been breaking bad so long, and he's trying to break good, but he just can't do it. Like it's just no matter how hard he tries to be a good guy, he can't stick with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when you kind of came up with, you said you wrote the first book. Did you envision a series from the beginning, or do you plan out a series, or how do you handle that?
I kind of knew when I started writing it that I wanted it to be a series, although I wrote the first book very much so that it wouldn't be a cliffhanger or anything like that. I mean, I don't think I could get away with a cliffhanger anyway. I think you can get away with maybe like an honest cliffhanger if you're doing like really, really short books that you're releasing 2 or 3 weeks apart or something. You can totally get away with that. But otherwise you're asking for it. So I made it like a self-contained story, but I made sure it had a lot of threads, sort of an underlying conspiracy that I didn't really answer. So it was a good solid. I felt like it was a good solid conclusion to the story right there that stood alone. But there are plenty of threads to grab to continue on. So that was my thought process anyway.
And does that go throughout the whole series, or each one going to be effectively self-contained, or are they? Do they become more series linked as we go through?
I think 2 and 3 are a little more linked. Although readers they've been pretty happy with the conclusion. The 2 sort of concludes, well, they all conclude super violently, but 2 sort of concludes with like a really like characters dying and a pretty like insane. And so I think people enjoyed that and were okay with it, even though I didn't really close the loop on sort of almost like there was like two storylines running side by side, and I closed one and left one totally wide open, but nobody seemed to complain about it. But I did close everything with book 3, and basically my thought process, not everything. I mean, he's about to go sort of back across this corridor that we've created in the storyline. But I do kind of have this Star Wars mentality, which is, I think, in trilogies. So it's like the first 3 is sort of one trilogy, and then I'm going to have the next trilogy and the next trilogy. But I'm linking them together more directly. I think some authors will do like generational shifts, but I'm not playing that game. It's probably going to be it is about 3 months afterward that the second trilogy picks up.
And how many trilogies do you have planned out?
3 right now, and planned. Let's put that in air quotes. I mean, I have planned the second. I have a really broad idea of where I want to go, but I really haven't mapped out books 7, 8, and 9 yet. Just the next 3, like 4, 5, and 6. I have an idea, but 7, 8, and 9, I'm going to have to figure out where we go. We'll see.
It's interesting. You've got titles for them all up to this point.
I know. When I first got him, so this goes back to Tom Edwards. When I first got him, he was doing his very first or second, like his pre-mades. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was like, these are like the only, like they were ridiculously underpriced. They're still ridiculously underpriced, but at the time they were really ridiculously underpriced. Like they were basically the same price as I could get, it was like a couple $100 or something for those pre-made. So I was like, this is crazy. I'm just buying these things up. So I bought up like 7, I think, of that between his first and second series. And I just created all of those at the same time. And I was like, I knew the first 6. And then I said, you know what? We can just play this naming game for the next 3, and then I can it's almost like this will be a fun game. I'll see how I can make myself fit to these really vague. I mean, they're very vague. So I sort of forced myself to kind of play with the idea of like, let me see if I can use these to kind of build the story too. So that's kind of what I don't know, it put some bumpers on me for the story. It's kind of fun.
And you have all your titles, and of course you got the thread and the branding thing for that, like we're talking about. But if you go and look at Amazon on your book page, you have the publishing schedule all set out.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
It's very much like, number one, it's an accountability thing. I'm forcing myself, like, no backing out now. Everybody knows, fans know, anybody who's looked knows. I put it in the back of the books, so I'm very focused on it, and it makes me like not get shiny ball syndrome of like just going this way or that way. Because I think I'm like anybody else. I got like
squirrel.
8, totally. What? I got like 8 other ideas, and they keep coming to me all the time, and they're probably all crap. But I don't really I don't let myself just completely jump track on them. It sort of makes me stay focused for this year. Anyway, I wanted it to be something I was sticking with, like, for most of this year, just this very solid thread, because this is my first year of publishing. So it's like, I want to be focused and just kind of push through on this. And that's why I try to be really focused with my marketing and, trying to be a typical accountant, like trying to, dot all the I's and cross all the T's and kind of, be organized somewhat in this thing.
I really want to touch on the fact that you've certainly from my perspective, when I look at your work, it's I don't mean your work. I mean the surrounding bump around it. It's some of the sharpest organisation you've got that I've seen. Full stop in publishing. So I'd like to touch on that, but first I just want to sort of harken back to the books themselves. One of the impressions I get from them, from as I'm reading through, I'm reading Lucky Universe at the moment, is it seems like a really well realised universe. You know, it feels like it's got a weight and gravity to it that's not necessarily even there on page, but you can feel it behind it. Have you got sort of like a universe Bible you're working to, or did you work things out beforehand as to the setting?
I've got like a pretty half-assed Bible. I think it's like basically I've got like I want to say 7,000 words that I wrote that were like was like a prequel sort of story building like sessions that I just did where I would just sit down and brainstorm. And so I kept a lot of those notes and I've organized them, and they form the backbone for a bunch of the stories, like the characters, the character development and the world development. It all kind of came out of those just little brainstorming sessions, and I just kept all those notes and then organized them. And now I've just sort of started to add to. So I've got mine. I know the Scrivener, the feelings pro and con, but like I just have like all of my notes. Yeah, you're on board. I've got all of my notes for my Scrivener stuff, for my files that I keep in Scrivener, and I literally, as I move from one book to the next, I just drag those folders right along with me, and so my research just follows me, and then I just keep adding to it, like when I add new characters, or like every time I'm like, here's a new setting. How does this link into the old setting? So I'll just sit down and I'll spend like half an hour just like free writing through like how those connect each other, just to make sure I have like an idea of some weird, goofy backstories, some battles that I'm not actually going to show, just like make some stuff up. Like, okay, there's a history with these guys and they had these fights and these battles, and this is like a touchstone. And then, once I've got that, I'm good to go.
So, you mentioned dragging the folders from one project to the next project. You don't keep your Scrivener file just for all the books. You do a fresh one for every book.
So I have a Scrivener. I have a template that I use for each book, but it doesn't have like. I guess you're right. I should just blank out one and move to and just restart on that one. But I just don't have my research notes. So it's like a blank one that didn't have I built it, then I put my research notes in. And now when I open that template up for the next book, it opens up to that fresh template that doesn't actually have my research notes in it. If that makes sense. Like I guess I should have saved my research notes to that template so that they would just follow me. But because I kind of have them all built stacked under one main folder, like I don't have a bunch of folders. I have just one main folder. It's very easy to just take it over. So that's what I do.
I'm curious about the aliens kind of Space Marine reference, because I just picked up your first one, your Lucky Universe one, and I got that vibe right off of the first couple of lines when I opened up and read the look inside, and then you what I think you did really well here, what I think a lot of people don't do well, is you're jumping right into the action with no backstory, with no kind of build up, with no heavy info dump, paragraph pages of anything. And I mean, even the words, the steady stream of used thermal cartridges tumbled into the cramped cabin of the skimmer. I mean, like I can automatically see what's going on, and so I'm curious on your research, what you did for this, because you're an accountant, which is not a bad thing. But were you prior military before, or like?
Oh, man,
I'm qualifying here. I'm qualifying here.
What are you talking about? It rolls off a tongue.
Aside from your part-time gig as a international assassin, like what's the research that you've done here to? Because I've watched Aliens 1,000 times, but I'm curious on what your research is.
Well, for one, I really did try and absorb through osmosis. Like over the last year, I've been reading a ton in the genre. and really tried to absorb the mindset of some of the really writers I like. And I really wanted to, so I tried to write it like my style was I wanted to be like a machine gun. So I wrote it in a rat-a-tat-tat. I really wanted my writing to be short, sharp, short paragraphs, short sentences, short words, just hit it hard and fast. So that's kind of what I was doing basically. And then I sort of focused on that. And then I think the rest of it, I don't know. I did grow up. I lived for a decade in Norfolk, out in Norfolk Naval, out by Oceana, and all the SEAL teams and all the Marines are out there, and I see those guys out working around and running around all the time. So I say maybe
is that why you were trained to be an international assassin with this?
Yeah, clearly it rubbed off on me. I was the nerdiest guy in the gym. Like I was the accountant in the gym with the rest of the guys who looked like they were twice my size. But it was fun. It was all good. And so I think those guys, they had a great, like, I really did like the camaraderie of those guys, and they were always fun. They're always like just total smart asses, like just little kids and just big little kids. And they were just having a lot of fun.
Deadly children.
And, yeah, just big, deadly guys. I mean, but they would literally, like, they would finish working out and those guys would go base jump or something in the afternoon on their day off and stuff. Just crazy stuff. But I sort of gave me that mentality of like, hey, that's what these guys are like in their off time. They're crazy. And I'm going to make these guys crazy. So I just sort of, when I started to focus on Lucky and his guys, and he's already got so many mental problems anyway. So I was like, oh, he's definitely going to be over the top. So I just kind of ran with maybe it was like some memories of some characters that I sort of, put together in my head, but mostly it was just trying to have some fun with that. Just keep the energy up. Like, I just really like the energy of some of the writers I really liked. You just forget you're reading because there's just such forward momentum. And so when I started writing, I was like, forward momentum, man, just keep push and keep twisting. And so that was kind of how I wrote
them. Kind of shifting gears a little bit with having a full-time job and this publishing schedule that you're rolling with. I'm almost a book a month, but not quite. What's your daily writing routine like? I mean, you've got to be smashing out the words. Yeah.
First of all, I don't have any kids. I'm not married. So it really no excuses. Yeah. Like it's like anytime I tried to bitch and moan about like how much, I've got a full-time job. It's like, no, you don't have, give me a break. So it's not like that. It's not like I'm in that terrible a shape as far as time goes. I mean, I have a 40-hour week job, which really honestly like stretches into 50 plus, depending on if it's, we're doing financials at the end of the month. Or I'm assassinating.
A lot of surveillance. A lot of surveillance for a hit or something.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're setting up some stuff on the side. So
got to build a machine gun from parts, But
my routine is mornings, and I'm very much an early morning writer. I like to get up at 4, and I like to be writing no later than 5. And I usually try and have all my words in by 8:30 when I head to work. Sometimes I have to go into work early, so I try and get my words. So I really try and pound my words out. And if I have to, I can work a little bit in the evenings. But my preference is to just pound out at least 5,000 words. Typically, I aim for 7,000 if I can in the mornings.
Holy crap!
And then when you get to the editing and revision,
okay, but it's not like polished stuff. So I mean, I do have to go back. I'm not somebody who writes. And maybe I can work on this. Like maybe there's a balance I can find, but I'm not somebody who writes those 5,000 to 7,000 words in the morning, and then in the evening I look at them and there's like just a few typos. I mean, typically there's some work that I've got to put in, because a lot of times it's just part of it is I have my beats written down and Scrivener, like in my side panel, my beats, and usually I have those written so that I have maybe a couple of little dialogue or a couple of little scenes. Like I want to make sure I hit this. Otherwise it's just a pretty loose beat. And so it's a lot of stream of consciousness, just slamming really hard. I just want to go and kind of keep that energy going. So even in like the down moments, I want to make sure that conversationally, I want the conversation to be violent. So I want everybody to be angry. I want to be mad. I want there to be a lot of shouting, even when they're just like sitting there talking, or even if they're not shouting, I want there to be like some menace underneath it. Like there's just constant conflict, and I want to push forward like that. So as long as I have that in my head and I'm just typing, and I'm just rat-a-tat-tat banging it out. And then sometimes it needs some cleaning up later.
So I think, so just looking at, say, your monthly schedule for each of these books, I mean, it's short enough that I'd like to sort of dive into that, not just your daily schedule, but your monthly schedule. So do you spend a certain amount of time assembling those beats you were mentioning, or do you?
Yeah, that's the worst part for me, actually, is because I feel the least efficient when I'm working on it. I mean, the outline's the most important part, but at the same time, I just want an outline set in front of me. Like, I just like that. It's almost like I'm like the nerd, like packing his lunch for himself, so I don't have to think it, like just pick it up and go. Like, I just want my beats right there, just waiting for me in the morning. So when I'm sort of in that in-between period, I'm antsy. Like, that's kind of that's the hard time for me, because a lot of times I lose momentum when I don't have those outlines done. So I'm trying to figure out a way to improve my process so that I can do more outlining at the same time that I'm writing, so that I don't have these gaps where I finish and then I've got to go through a window of like getting my next outline ready and my next beats ready and then starting again. Like, I don't like that. I want to be able to just write every day consistently with my beats there. So I'm kind of working on that process. I still don't have that sort of nailed down to my satisfaction yet. So
how long does it take to beat out a whole novel? Like, that take a day, 2 days, half a day?
It's a weekend if I'm on my game. If it's usually I have like in my mind, this is cheesy, but I'm just like, what badass places and things and people, and I just sort of write that stuff down, like just free form thinking. What's a badass ending? What's a badass place to be? What's some badass characters that I can have that are like the protagonist, antagonist, secondary characters. I just play around with that, sketch that out, and then once I've got that built, I start seeing like, where's my structure? Where's the 3-act structure, 4-act, whatever, 4-act structure? I just sort of work my way back, like trying to see if I can put those pieces together in a way that I can just hit really cool points along the story. And then I feel like what usually happens to me is like a theme develops without me trying. Like, you'll start to realize, there's this character has this emotional connection to him or something. And so you'll start sort of backing into like little themes like that. But I always try and make sure that, this sounds terrible to say, but I always make sure character development doesn't get in the way of, shit getting blown up. It's very important.
Priorities straight.
Yeah. So, I'm worrying about character development, but not so much that it's getting in the way of things getting blown up.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad rule to live by.
I love that.
Pacing.
Yeah, for my pacing, for what I'm writing and what seems to be connecting with the readers that are reading my stuff, that seems to be the mindset. Like, they like it. It's getting good reviews, so they seem to think that that's the way to go. So I'm not gonna change it just because it's not, Shakespeare.
So I've got 2 questions. I've got one that kind of follows along with the structure that you're talking about and what the readers like, and then I'll ask that here in a minute. But the first one I have is when you're going back and you're doing those revisions on that 3 or 4 or 5,000 words that you write in the mornings or whatever. Do you write that the next day? Do you wait until the novel's done to go back and revise? What's your schedule like for that?
Yeah, I can't go back. I'm bad about. I don't want to go back because I feel like I'll throw myself off. So I tend to keep moving ahead. And what I'll do is this was something that I saw way back when I watched Chris Fox's videos, which is he'll just, even if he introduces like a whole new character, he'll just put in a note, I need to write a backstory for this person, or I need to introduce them back in these other parts of the story. But he doesn't go back and rewrite stuff. He just kept motoring forward, man. And then he would go back and figure that stuff out later. So I think that that really affected my mindset on that kind of stuff. So right away, because when I first started writing it, immediately, like everybody else, I wanted to stop and fix everything. And so I just sort of having that in the back of my head, I was like, I'm not stopping and fixing nothing, screw it. Just keep moving.
Get her done.
Yeah. And so that's,
it's obviously working for you.
I think so. It's worked to get the books written anyway. And it turns out, I guess they're okay. So that's good. 2 good things.
Well, that's my second question. When you talk about structure wise and then kind of what the audience in that genre is looking for, I mean, you've obviously hit a really good mark because you've got 149 reviews on your first book and they're 4.5 star average, which is extremely well. And I mean, the follow on read through to the second and third book, it keeps on par with other books in the genre I see. So when you talk about structure, what length is your total books for word count? And then Do you jump between POVs? Is it just one POV that you write? Well, what do you think the readers are really getting out of? What do they really like out of the book?
Yeah, I think when I started it, I guess to go backwards, so to the lengthwise, they're pretty short actually. They're probably around 60,000 words, which is short for the genre. Although I haven't had anybody, I thought people were going to complain. I haven't had anybody complain at all. So maybe it's not that big a deal.
I don't think it. Scott and I and Ralph write in the genre, and really you talk 60, 65, 70,000 words is quite average for military sci-fi in the indie space anyway. I know it gets longer when you're not completely indie, but.
Right, and maybe that influenced me some. I would see some of that stuff, and I would see some of the other stuff that was sci-fi that leaned with military twist, and it seemed to be longer because the traditionally published stuff was.
Yeah.
Well, your page count is still showing on par with.
I don't know.
Much higher. Yeah. So I mean, like taking Luckies Universe, that's 304. Now I know one of my books, which was published, was 90,000, and I think I'm on like 320 on that. So I'm like,
I will say I don't know if this matters at all, but I use KDP for the paperbacks, and I always do 5x8s, not 5x9s. I mean, I like the smaller size paperback, and maybe that increases the page count or what it looks like.
I think actually your page count is set by your paperbacks, and that's something I didn't learn until much longer.
Yeah. So okay, well there you go. I just literally stumbled into that obliviously, like most things.
Right. I'm doing my next one's 2x1. They're going to be pocketbooks.
What was the second part of your question, Josh? I'm sorry.
No, that was it. It just the size, and then the POV kind of what are the readers saying that they like best about your?
Well, they like the action. They like the energy. They like that it moves forward fast. I think that's important to them. I started out writing. I think I saw something like I want to say Jake Bible had something that he just recently wrote that was like how to be like one of these fast writers, kind of thing. And I hadn't read that before, but I just happened to glance at it and realized I'm doing exactly what he says, which is simple ideas executed really simply is the way to go if you want to be really, really prolific. And so I decided right up front, I'm going to have one main point of view. I'll introduce a second one. And that's it. Like, that's all I'm doing is 2 points of view at most. And really, I was like trying to stick with one POV for more than 80% of the book. And that's kind of what I did. I think I succeeded.
We had a question.
Mostly one POV.
We had a question to reference what you're just saying about which book or what was the author you referred to just a moment ago about writing quickly.
About writing quickly. I think Jake Bible.
Jake Bible.
He has something. Yeah, he has something. I can't remember where I saw it. But if you do a search in the Kindle bookstore for writers, there's something about, and it's something about. It was sort of a collaboration. It was half like writing in a collaboration, but it was also about writing really prolifically, really fast. And he was just saying, keep your idea. I mean, if you want to do that, it's not like you can't have complex ideas. No one's saying you can't write those stories, but if you want to write really, really fast, you're probably going to have to pare down to really simple ideas executed well, not a ton of point of views. I mean, some writers can, but like if you're trying to think that way, you could consider like starting from the very beginning with an idea of writing really fast, and that's a good way to do it. And I did that without trying, I guess, like on accident.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, especially when you talk about slowing down when you're writing really complicated ideas. I've got a novel that I've been working on for a couple of years now that's a military science fiction novel. Ralph and I were actually talking about it this morning, and it's super duper complicated, and it's taken me forever I mean, complicated and long in the fact that it's taking a long time to write it so that the complicated concept is not complicated to the reader.
Right.
And that's and the other projects that I'm writing, but compared to like my Terra Nova books that I write with Richard Fox, this other project it's extremely slow in the writing just because of how complicated the narrative structure is of the book.
Yeah, because you're the one who has to make it simple. So you get the hardest job.
Yeah, because I know what's going on, but they don't know what's going on.
Right.
Well, let's stop there and talk about our book of the week and our sponsor for this week, which is Christian Kalis. His book, Earth Last Sanctuary, the definitive edition, which is the Universe in Flames book 1, is our show sponsor today. It is 99 cents now. I don't think it's going to be that for long. The regular price is $3.99. The Last Beacon of Hope Against the Rising Darkness. The definitive edition returns to full price, $3.99 soon. Grab it at its launch price while you still can. The Obsidian Empire has shattered the Star Alliance. Lieutenant Chase Athanatos manages to escape their wrath, piloting his fighter to lead a band of survivors to the edge of the galaxy to a little planet called Earth. But Earth is in trouble. The Empire is hot on their trail, and unless Chase can find a way to stop them, what remains of the Alliance is doomed to extinction. Doomed to extinction! Unbeknownst to him, something dormant is coursing through Chase's blood, something ancient. But does it hold the key to changing their destiny? Fans of Star Wars, Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, and Babylon 5 will love this book. The definitive edition of Earth Last Sanctuary contains a bonus novella, Ryona's Wrath. This particular story is exclusive to this ebook. So I'm going to put the link in the live chat. Hopefully it works. I'm having better luck putting them in the live chat recently, so we'll see if it works this time around. And of course, as always, it'll be in the show notes as well. So there it is. Check it out. Christian Claes, Earth Last Sanctuary, the definitive edition. Fantastic.
That's a good book for me. I give away copies of like popular books and genres, like around my genre or in my genre or nearby. And what I do is I do them as Amazon giveaways. And then in order to join the sweepstakes to get the giveaway, you have to follow me on Amazon. And I got like a lot of followers. I got like 100 and something. I got almost 200 followers from that book when I gave it away. I think. Who knows with Amazon? So I shouldn't say I know. That's how many I signed up for it. And they had to follow me to sign up for it. They could have unfollowed me instantaneously, which I'm sure many do.
So it's very interesting. I want to talk about that for a minute, because I want to kind of get into the business side of your work. We've kind of touched on it just a little bit, but so you just started publishing in 2018, just a little bit before then, and you've kind of taken it by the horns and just plowed through and done really well, which is we don't see typically on this show, where you have a first-time author on his first series who's doing really, really, really well.
I'm super happy. I feel the same way.
Right. So I'm just curious on how you approached this whole deal, obviously very purposefully,
like a nerdy accountant. Exactly,
right,
like a nerdy accountant
right, like a nerdy accountant assassin. You've got to lay out your plan of attack.
I'm the furthest from an assassin. I'm the guy who kicks sand in my own face at the beach, guys. Just so you know. It's clear.
He kicks sand on his own.
I just get out in front of it.
What an undercover assassin would say. Though.
Sure.
Right. So I'm curious. You mentioned earlier that you use Vellum, you use Scrivener, obviously. So, you to me, you do not sound like a beginning writer. So, tell us a little bit about how you went about publishing the series and putting it out there, so you're publishing quality products.
Well, I did a lot of research before I started, and I listened to a lot of podcasts like this one. I bought a couple courses. I can't remember. But anyway, I did the first 10,000 readers course, and I did the Mark Dawson Facebook ads. Yeah, Nick Stevenson. I did the Mark Dawson Facebook ads course. Because I was like marketing. I wanted to understand the marketing side of it, because I knew I can sit down and push out a book. But I want to be able, and I guess my feeling was, I know a lot of great books that nobody reads. So I thought the marketing was really important to figure out, because I knew maybe I could write a great book, but I knew even if I wrote a great book, I need to get it in front of people and to be successful with it, because I feel like great books aren't enough. So anyway, I really started out really focused on marketing a lot. Like when I first started out. That's not to say I had any great idea of what I was doing. It was still like throwing stuff against a wall and just seeing what would stick. I remember early on when I was doing those Amazon, I was giving away books, and I gave away one of Richard Fox's books. I was doing a giveaway, and when I would do it, I would make a point of like putting the giveaway on my Facebook page, and even on my Twitter page. and like mention the author, and it worked out great because sometimes the authors would come along and be like, "Hey man, I see you're giving away one of my books. That's cool," and like it would turn into a conversation. But when I told Richard Fox what I was doing, I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing these little sweepstakes and giving away a book, and then like getting people to follow me on Amazon." And he was like, "That sounds like a real waste of money, man." And I was like, "Yeah, it probably is. I have no idea what I'm doing." And he was like, "Well, good luck, man." I was like, "All right, thanks." So, I kind of was just trying some stuff to see what would work when I first started out. But that was one of the things
that's not something
who knows if it worked or not, but I did when I finally did launch, get a really nice bump. And I had been probably since the beginning of the year. So the very beginning of the year, so January, for the very first week of January through the end of February, I gave away one book every single day of an author in Space Marines or Space Fleet who were like number one or, top 10, top 15. I must have given away Legionnaire about 1,000 times. I gave everybody that book. I was like, this book's awesome. And if you like this book, this is what I'm going for, So,
right.
But I would give those books away and just help. And and Amazon allows you to require something of somebody in order to join the sweepstakes for the giveaway. And so I just always made them follow me as an author. And so I don't know if it worked or not, but I had a really nice bump when I launched, and I didn't have, I had a pretty good newsletter at that point as well. So it's hard to say how much having the Amazon followers helped, but I only gave away one book, and they're $2.99 or 99 cents to $2.99. It's not like I was investing this huge amount of money every day. I mean, it was like between $1 and $3 every day. So
$3 a day investment.
Yeah, why not? It was worth it. I figured it was worth a shot anyway.
Well, I can see that there's two purposes behind, or there's probably many more, but two instantly spring to mind. One is sort of like also bought, which is an absolutely crucial marketing tool, but the other is the indie community is actually quite small. The indie writing community is quite small, and you kind of bootstrapped your way into the good graces of probably quite a few significant players there.
Yeah, I think they all understood what I mean. People were like, "Oh, this is great, man." Then you realize, well, he's not like doing it just out of the goodness of his heart. Like I had this sort of marketing aim I was going for, but everybody was nice that talked to me or that dropped me a line or whatever. It was super cool. So it was nice.
I guess there's something to be said for getting people in the genre you're writing to following you on Amazon. That seems like a really good idea.
It was great, and I knew Amazon gives me no information. I have no idea if these people are literally stopping, not following me instantaneously. But I figured they're probably in the genre. There's probably a good chance I'm getting a few of them. So
I would doubt people unfollow that quickly, because most of the time when you follow an author, you're only going to get a notification when they do the next book like a month later. It's not like you're going to, because usually it's kind of a forget thing. Oh, look, I follow that person. Then a month later, you're like, hey, they got a new book. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
That's kind of what I was going
act
for.
on it, I guess that's different.
I think people get saturated with mailing lists generally, don't they? But again, direct from Amazon might be a bit more of, it might carry a little bit more weight to it.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I did do is I built up my newsletter before I released my first book. So I had 2,000 people on my newsletter when I released my first book. And the way I did that was I gave it away to anybody and everywhere. So I used Facebook leads, which I know everybody says don't work, but they worked for me. So I don't know.
What Facebook leads?
So I would. So it's like they're probably changing it now because of all this stuff with the GDPR, GDCR, GDRR. I don't know whatever the letters are, but it used to be where, and maybe it still is. You can instead of having them click on a link that goes to your book, like to Amazon or whatever, you actually are giving away a free book. And when they click to get the free book,
they have to sign up for your newsletter. It already captures their email.
A screen's already pre-populated that way. So they'll sign up for your newsletter in order to get the free book. So I did that for Facebook leads for a couple of months. I set aside a budget. I said, I'm going to spend, I can't remember how much I spent, because I think I set $500 a month. So I think it ended up working out to $15 a day or something, that I just was like, that's my budget. And that's what I spent every day on Facebook, just getting people to join my newsletter. In exchange, I gave them my book. And when they came on my newsletter, I had 6 autoresponders. I had spent some time building up, I had about 3 weeks worth of autoresponders built up, sort of warming them up, getting to know them, talking about my books, my worlds, giving away some more free stuff, like some character some character sheets that I had put together. Like I had an eyes only undercover thing about Lucky and sort of some Empire psychologists who were writing up how crazy he was and stuff like that. And then that would get him warmed up. And then I would ask him to please review it. And every email I sort of would do something smart ass like thing in the PS note to get him. The book.
No, there we go.
We're getting a little bit of
Twilight Zone for a minute.
Oh, sorry.
In true Nicole fashion, you did have a freeze, which is, usually that happens. That way we know you're legit.
Yeah, that's
legitimately in your car. It's not like it's just a soundstage or something.
Right. He's actually having a gunfight, isn't he? When it cuts out, it's just
mute, bang, mute.
So anyway, that was what I did to build, I guess, to use them to build up newsletters before I started, which worked. I think it worked well because then I launched to them, and obviously they already had the book, but actually I think a lot of them went ahead and bought a copy anyway. Like they liked it, and they were very nice.
Yeah, if I get an art
copy,
on
my list was super nice.
Yeah, if I get an advanced reading copy and I like it, I always buy the book when it comes time to review it because I know that shows as a certified thing, and plus I like the book. It's worth. If it was worth me reading the whole book, it's worth $2.99 to me, and I'll just buy it and then go on, or whatever the price is. So,
yeah, 59 cents, and then slowly worked my.
So
now it's $2.99.
So on your publishing schedule, if I could say it like Ralph says, schedule.
Properly, you mean?
Right, properly.
Whatever.
Whatever. You have it all the way scheduled out to your 5th book, out to July. And are you on track with keeping those dates locked in for publishing? And are you think you'll be able to keep up through the second trilogy and the third trilogy?
So far, I have it. I feel pretty good about it. I'm working on the 4th book right now. I like where it's going. It's kind of not where I planned it, but I like it, and it kind of leads into book 5 in a different way. But I think it'll work really well. A bit. So
I can hear him. We may be getting different responses, but yes, and whatnot. So book 4. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I talk over you because I do that. It's my thing.
So you mentioned you were you're working on book 4 and it's going different directions. So like when I publish a book by myself, I've got to have it done by for a month before so I can edit and format and all that stuff. What's your timeline to get that book polished and ready to publish by the time you're done writing it?
Yeah. Ryan, I actually got her. Nathan Heistat had recommended her, and she's been great. She did the Explorers books, I think.
Yeah.
And she's fast and good, and actually she's funny. I like her a lot as an editor. She's great. So she can turn the books around in a couple of weeks. Frankly, she can do faster than that sometimes, depending on her schedule. So the time frame with her is pretty quick, and I've got the covers already done. And really, it's just a matter of getting my marketing on.
Yeah. And what was the editor you said? I'm sorry, you cut out just a little bit. I think we are kind of having a little cutout, but you mentioned your editor, but you cut out on her name. What was the name?
Scarlett.
A G.
Agi. Yeah.
She's good.
Yeah. She's really good, and she's fun, and I like her comments I like the general style that she edits with, so it works.
I think most editors can turn a book around in a week or two. That I've worked with, most of them can seem to do that. It just depends on how many other clients they got breathing down their neck, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can get in the first place is the hard part. So.
Do you pre-book your editor slots then, or do you just?
Because so that there's that. So we kind of we've backed our way into knowing kind of when I need to have it ready to go, and small group of readers that I'll try and send it to a week before it releases, and they can kind of give me some feedback.
Do you use them to edit as well, or do they just read and tell you what they think about it?
They're like, I think they're just like typical ARC readers, I guess. I mean, I give them free copies, and I ask nice feedback, and I would love it if they would review it, although I feel kind of uncomfortable trying to like directly link the free book to them doing a review. So I just kind of,
sure,
it would be nice if they do, and most of them like just automatically do.
Yeah. Well, very cool, man.
I think your Mark set up a jamming beacon or something. Seems to be interfering with your phone a little bit here.
Must be. It's like lunchtime. Maybe people are getting back from lunch and they've all got their phones around.
They're probably all checking their Facebook. They're probably all logging on to watch the show, and they're using the same, Wi-Fi that you are. Sure. So that's bogging us down because the massive popularity that we're experiencing.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We're having higher than usual viewer volumes today, which occasionally happens during any type of Nick Cole type episode.
So do you think you're going to be able to have all 9 books done by the end of the year?
Sure. I mean, there's no. So that's the plan.
So well,
if I get knocked off, if things don't go well on an assignment, who knows?
Right.
But if I'm still around, then,
you get tortured or something, it can slow you down. If you get tortured, it messes your hands, it messes things up.
Right.
But you do, you had.
If you're handcuffed to a radiator in Fallujah or something.
Yeah, it just kills you can't get your word count in when you're, being hunted. So, but you got
a lot of excuses.
Yeah, no. See, I got great excuses. I've heard some good ones. So, although,
that's all.
On a completely unrelated note, because that's what I do. I literally was sitting on the couch the other day, and my little dog goes in my 10-year-old's backpack at school, grabs her homework, and goes running across the living room, eating my kid's homework. I'm like, you're kidding me. That did not just happen. So
once in a lifetime.
I couldn't believe it. I wish I had it. I would have put that on Facebook in a heartbeat or Instagram.
Did you send your kid to school with a note saying, you ain't going to believe this, but...
Well, out of a sense of parental obligation, I went ahead and rescued the homework from the vicious little 4-pound animal.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm
curious. Would prefer you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't save that, Dad. It's fine. Leave it there.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I'm curious about one other thing, and is vellum. So I've thought about making the dive into vellum before. A lot of people have spoken really awesome things about it. What were your thoughts on it? On have you tried using Scrivener to produce your ebooks, or do you just port it into vellum without doing anything in Scrivener? Like what are your thoughts for going with vellum?
Any better way to do it. So the way I've done it is I export out of Script to my editor. She edits in Word, gets it back to me. Once we've got it cleaned up in the way we want it, that Word file just gets imported into vellum, and then it takes me honestly, it takes I don't know, maybe if there's a chapter header or something that got messed up, I got to redo it. But honestly, it takes 2 minutes.
Wow.
I just have to put my name and title in the front and any copyright information. Basically, use back matter. I drop from a pre. So if I already got the drag and drop promos are there.
We're getting some real golden nuggets here.
So it's nice.
Yeah, very cool.
I'm looking at vellum right now. It looks like it.
It does the paperback. Wow, it's just check a box, and it'll in the ebooks if you want. It does. So it kicks out the EPUB, and then if you want, that's got all the margins already set and everything for you, and you just tell it what size and what matting and what color, and it's okay, got it, and then it just pumps it out.
Yeah, that's good. That would save me hundreds of hours of time, because formatting paperbacks has always been like freaking the devil or something.
And I figured I'm not gonna sell a ton. It wasn't honestly, I was I'm not gonna care too much about this. I flipped through Didn't see any problems. Uploaded it to KDP. I think I had to upload one cover like twice because I had the size off by like 0.015 or something, and it didn't like.
Yeah. I've had the same problem with mine, is especially when you port it into Amazon and then it does that stupid when you do the look behind or the look inside feature, and it center margins everything, so everything's like centered, justified. I hate that.
Yeah.
Did you are you talking about the thing I was complaining about the other day where the look inside? Is that what you just said, Josh?
Yeah.
Because I was looking at Velma while you were saying that. And that's
I've never had that problem. I don't know. Never. I guess I've just been lucky, or I've just been with Vellum from the beginning, and it's just always been good. But I literally, it's always worked on the first try for me when I've uploaded stuff. When I've
the research I did, that problem, and other writers complain about that, is that problem is because the look inside feature is a HTML. It's a web function of Amazon. So whatever you send it, it interprets it and puts it in its HTML format. And so maybe it's that much. Yeah, maybe it's a translation error basically, and maybe coming from Velen. I didn't used to have it, but I used to upload my stuff by making a Word document into an HTML file, because that's what in the early days of KDP they said you had to do, and blah blah blah. So,
for those of you who aren't familiar, Velen is a Mac only publishing tool for formatting. Just so I didn't say that at the beginning. And instead of either porting it out of Scrivener or uploading a Word doc and then Amazon converts it, Vellum just gives you a Mobi file and an EPUB file, and you just drop those and it works. So that's why I love having my Mac, because then I can use Scrivener for Mac and Vellum, which I don't have, but I probably should get it.
Yeah. I don't use a Mac for anything at all other than writing. I'm really.
And even the really cheap Macs will do what, I mean, just for writing, like you get a regular MacBook for $1,000, or even a Mac Mini for $500, and then all you got to do is buy a monitor, and the Mac Mini will do. I've got an iMac, but I've also got a MacBook Pro, and they both do exactly the same thing. Just I've got more real estate landscape on a monitor on my iMac. So. But anyway,
looking at Vicky's comment, I wasn't a Mac person either, but then Josh tortured me until I became a Mac person. Now I like Mac.
That's true.
It's true.
Just a question from Christy Johnston. So you're interviewing an accountant assassin. Do you do your own taxes?
Well,
oh, you broke up a little bit, brother.
Broke up probably that's a plausible deniability. No, I don't do my own taxes. You can't.
What he just said was redacted for the State of the Union.
It's redacted. Redacted. Right.
Yeah, sorry my connection's so bad.
Oh no.
Oh no, it happens, brother. It happens. Don't worry about it.
We once had a whole city lose power right before a show.
A whole city in Sri Lanka. Like, I don't even know how that happened. We turn on K-Truck Medium, the whole country of Sri Lanka just goes right off the grid.
We had to wing it, so it happens.
So, but we are coming to the end of the hour, and I'm now, because of this interview and then looking at your books, I may have to spend the money to get Vellum. So thanks. You've just cost me a whole bunch of money. And
most expensive Keystroke Medium show.
So, well, it was really good to have you on, Josh. I think once the rest of your books are published, maybe next year we can do a Josh-iversary, have you back on and see how you're doing. Hey, but I didn't mention this. This is a Josh Squared episode. This is the second Josh Squared episode we have. When we had Josh Dazelle on last year, that was our first one. So, congratulations, Josh. It's a great name, Josh. I mean, you really can't go wrong.
What we need is
obviously.
What we need is a group one, and then we can have Josh Cubed.
Oh, Josh Cubed. I like
Cube.
that.
Josh
I like
Cube.
that. Everybody that came out and hang with us in the live chat, we had a lot of shenanigans today. Thank you guys for coming on. A lot of new faces I enjoy seeing in the chat and also commenting on the videos later. If you guys have a favorite show, let us know in the group on Facebook what your favorite show is. Maybe next week we'll do a t-shirt giveaway. We'll see. We'll see how good you are. Right. We really need to pay attention to stuff here. So, Josh, thanks so much for taking time out of your lunch break to hang out with us, man. This is great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was
right at the end of the show, and then he gets shot. He just falls over. All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. We will be back next week. We are going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing, and of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Take it easy, guys.
On to the post show.